Hello and welcome to the Berkshire Football Stories chat podcast with me, your host Rob Davies, Tom Canning.
Hello.
And Abby can't join us this week, but we have an able deputy or someone jumping into her shoes, Dan Walkley of Tadley Caliver. Dan, how you doing?
Hello, very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Thanks for coming back on the pod. We've had you before, and all good source of knowledge for Berkshire/Hampshire based football. So, being on the board there, we thought we'd let you in every now and then.
Once a month.
Once a month. That sounds about right. Yeah. Good stuff. Well, we're going to get straight into it because we've got quite a big running order, but we're going to start with last night's games, and one in particular. We're recording on Wednesday, we should say, and that was unfortunately didn't go the way of the Berkshire club. Reading City losing 4-1 to Winchester City in the second qualifying round of the FA Cup. Disappointing result on the night, but pretty good achievement to get to the second qualifying round for the first time in the club's history. I'll throw that out to you, Dan. Why not?
No, yeah, a great achievement, like you said, to take it to a replay as well against a Step 3 team. It's obviously a great achievement for Reading City, and hopefully now they can kick on and try and, I guess, gain promotion as they were looking for last year. It should give them a lot of confidence playing against that opposition. So, it was a shame. Obviously, going 1-0 up as well. They were probably in dreamland at that point, but did see the manager's tweet this morning saying it's just 45 minutes too much for them. So, But no, fantastic achievement for someone in our remit as well. So yeah, it's nice to see.
You mentioned there about the heading into promotion. Now you with Tadley as well, sort of a team that been in the top half of the table in the Combined Counties South. What difference does the new promotion setup make for a team like yourself or Tadley or Reading City, considering last year there was the one automatic promotion and then another one spot going into the playoffs for the Step 4 teams? But this season we've got a more traditional playoff setup with one going up automatically and then 4 into an orthodox playoff. What difference does that make for a team like yourselves?
I think it's huge, really, because if you look at especially the top 2 or 3 teams in each division, for the South particularly, you've got the likes of Farnham, Tooting and Mitcham, who are obviously a huge club, non-league, Jersey Bulls as well. When you don't have that option of the 14 playoffs, it is always, I guess, towards Christmas, and after that it becomes a 2, 3, maybe 4 horse race. But with the playoffs, you can sneak into 5th. You can get a good run at the end of the season. You can pick up some points, get good momentum. And then you're basically into cup football. You're into knockout football. And yeah, as you can see in the professional playoffs with Luton, anything can happen with teams getting promoted. So I think it keeps the leagues a lot more interesting all the way to the end of the season. Obviously, a major achievement for Ascot last year. But I guess for the other teams that were in 4th, 5th, 6th, you've got nothing else to play for, really, towards the end of the season. So it keeps it exciting. It keeps teams' momentum going. I'm looking forward to it because I do think we have a great chance of sneaking in there, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit about more about Tadley in a sec, but from what I've seen, I'd agree with you so far. But I don't want to get off too far of Reading City and their achievement, Tom. What this cup run that they've just had, what a difference will that make to the club?
We worked. I can't remember. We worked out last week how much they would have earned so far. But ultimately, financially, they are going to be 6-7 grand better off. I know we tried to get Bob to give us the insight into whether a manager comes knocking on the door, quite within their rights to as well. In my experience, I think most clubs have a kind of an agreement at the start of the season if what will happen with the FA Cup money. But there's certainly there's the kudos as well. I wrote this week. I never massively feel comfortable with this idea that a club is the smallest side left in the competition. It feels a little bit like a patronising pat on the back, but actually I think maybe I need to get over that, and clubs run with it. It's great. If you're the smallest club left, that means that you are getting some airtime. It means that people are aware of you, people are taking notice. So I think there's some general kudos. Reading City are a club that believe in themselves. Let's face it. They, you can see in their output. They have absolute faith in what they put out. They believe in what they're doing, and quite rightly so. The results on the pitch match that up. They've, I guess you could call it a bit of swagger, and the results match that, don't they? As far as I'm concerned. So it's put them out there. It's given them a little bit of a little bit more their name in the limelight a little bit. There is no bigger way in non-league football, in grassroots football in this country, of getting your team noticed than performing in the FA Cup. You can win. You can win. I was going to say you can win the Vase. I don't think maybe the Vase doesn't quite come into it necessarily, but you can win cups, you can win league cups, you can win county cups, you can win promotion, you can win the Combined Counties League, Premier Division North, all of those things. None of that. It's correct. I don't know. See how you guys feel. I think perhaps even winning the FA Vase, none of that, all of that pales into comparison to getting a decent distance in the FA Cup.
Yeah, I mean, just look what it did for Bracknell last season. I know it's slightly different level, and they went all the way to the first round, of course. But it was an incredible occasion. You've got ITV coming down, and they got national coverage, let alone sort of like the Twitter coverage or social media coverage. It's actual sort of on the telly kind of domestic coverage, which is incredible. Yeah. So, but
just to be clear, I'm not belittling winning the FA Vase, because that's an incredible achievement. When the last 6 games of the competition all go to penalty shootouts, that's a hard competition to win. I'm just the sort of the national kudos of FA Cup is higher. And I think that's just where that lies.
Absolutely. You'd have Abby on your back if not, without that caveat.
That's all I was thinking about.
Don't want to get in too much trouble. Well, obviously not the only team from Berkshire involved in FA Cup action this week. In fact, we go back to since we recorded the pod last Wednesday. Tadley had the unusual situation of having to play quite a late first qualifying round fixture after being knocked out in the extra. Was it the preliminary round? You got
in the preliminary round, quite convincingly as well. I'm sure everyone's seen that halfway line goal, which I guess is now void, right? Erased from history.
Can't count that game anymore. So Tadley, of course, played on Wednesday away at Didcot Town, another Step 3 side. Step 5, Tadley taking them on away from home with a chance for the second qualifying round, of course. Unfortunately, coming out on the wrong end of a 5-1 result, but we were both there, Dan, and I have to say, from what I saw, I don't think that was a 5-1 game. I thought Tadley were very much in the game for the majority of it. Perhaps Didcot looked a little bit more clinical, but at one point, certainly just after half-time, you really had them rattled and on the ropes.
Yeah, I mean, the first 2 goals both came from, I guess, maybe some, I don't know, weak defending, and they took their chance, I guess. We failed to clear the ball. But between those points when we went 1-0 down and half-time, I thought we controlled the game pretty well. We had a flurry of chances at the end of the first half where their keeper made probably 3 unbelievable saves in a row. Then we pulled one back, and then we had the chance to make it 2-2. Again, we seemed to be controlling the possession, but as soon as they broke forward, you could just tell the quality. I mean, Conor Barrett up front for them scoring a hat-trick was, I guess, the difference in the game, to be honest. It was just one of those. It was a very positive performance, which I guess we've got to be proud of, going through that against a Step 3 team. The result doesn't reflect the way the game ebbed and flowed, in my opinion. But it is just one of them. They're a lot more clinical than us, and it's something you've got to hold your head high and move on from and keep progressing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of the joy of the FA Cup, these sort of interstep matches. You get to challenge yourself against teams from much higher up the division. And, I think, like, I'd agree with you. I think Tadley were a match for Didcot on the night, even if the scoreline perhaps, 2 goals in, well, there was like the last 3 came fairly late on, I suppose.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
it was really a sort of, but at that point, it's sort of like some sucker punches right at the end there when Tadley were trying to get back into the game. So, yeah, I agree with you. But setting yourself up there, I mean, the confidence you can take from that, does that sort of spill over and bring make you feel like positive going into your league campaign or other cup fixtures you have coming up?
Yeah, I mean the buzz around the club at the minute is great. We've got a good set of young players who are obviously hungry and want to progress in both their career and with the club. The club off the field are progressing as well. So I don't see any reason, as we alluded to at the beginning of the podcast about the playoffs, why we can't reach that with the squad we have. So the positivity, even when we do face defeats, it's always we're always picking up lessons and progressing from that. So it's very, very positive at Tadley at the moment.
Very good. Well, hope to hear hear more about them as the season goes on, and battling for the that playoff position and maybe even a cup run. You did so well in the you had such a big tie in the Hampshire Senior Cup last year. It'd be nice to have some more positive news about that this season as well.
Yeah, a good FA Vars run will do us nicely.
Absolutely, yeah. More on that in a moment. But we did have some success in the FA Cup in Berkshire over the course of the weekend. On Saturday, we had 3 teams win their second qualifying round games. Bracknell beat Hamilton Waterlooville 2-1. Called it, yeah. Chippenham 1, Hungerford Town 4, a big result there in a local derby, considering Hungerford Town are now step 3 and Chippenham step 2. And then Hayes and Yedding, Niels, Slough Town 2. So 3 teams going through to the third qualifying round. Bracknell are awarded with a home tie against Poole Town, which is a pretty tricky fixture, a team they found quite tough to deal with in their own division, but they are at home. Slough Town travel to Salisbury and Hungerford Town are away at Torquay United. So a pretty big grandstand fixture there. Which one of those do you like the look of, Tom?
I mean, it's got to be. Sorry, I've completely lost the fixtures. I had them right up in front of me, and they've magically disappeared because that's what computers do to me. I was listening to you, Rob, though, is all I will say. Listening to every word. Sorry, they're coming back. Here we go. I think. I mean, it's got to be. You've got to be looking at the Torquay Hungerford one, but in terms of home games, I mean, there is only one, isn't there? But Bracknell v Poole. I think Poole have had the upper hand on Bracknell recently, if I'm not very much mistaken. That I think is going to be an excellent game. It's another home game for Bracknell. We've talked about their away record at the moment is not brilliant this season, but at home they're unbeatable. So that's the one I think that everybody's going to be looking at. If you're looking for an FA Cup game, that's the one you're going to be going to. Yeah.
Well, those fixtures are due to be played on Saturday, the 30th of September. So keep an eye out for the actual dates, and we will obviously be talking about them in the pods around that time. But moving on, we have some relatively new news that broke yesterday evening, in that Virginia Water have parted company with manager Adam Besant and assistant manager Jake Besant with immediate effect. In a statement they released, they said the 2 of them brought professionalism and a calmness to their roles and will always be grateful for their commitment, hard work, culminating in reaching the Surrey Senior Cup final for the first time in their history and a respectable 7th place league finish. That would be last season. And Chairman Dave McBride said they depart with our very best wishes for the future. A pretty big blow for Virginia Water, that one. Go on, Tom.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I saw them a couple of weeks ago at Hollyport, and they very much look like a side that I would expect to be in the playoffs. They were very solid. They had plenty of belief. They very, very, very quietly finished 7th last season, and the way that they were playing and what they were doing, and I think Kerry Jones, who's still at the club but was the manager before Adam had taken them so far and built them into a really solid Step 5 club. I think Adam and his brother took them on to the next level and made them into a club or into a team that very much looked like they would at least be playoff contenders this season. There is also some other bits and pieces going on at the club. They've got a new ground in the offing, which is really exciting. There's due to be a podcast with Kerry soon. I'm not going to put a date on it because we're just trying to, as these things go at the moment, everything's a little up in the air. But I can only hope that it doesn't cause too much disruption at the club. I imagine they have someone in mind, perhaps. There are certainly a couple of managers who are in touch with me on occasion, I think, who might be interested in that job as well. But just it's a shame. I don't know the circumstances of them leaving, but it's such a shame because they built something really, really good there, and it was good to see. That they of sort of Virginia Water and the Windsor clubs, they are the top club out of those 3 at the moment, and they've done that all the while sharing a ground in a different county from the one in which they are based, albeit not a million miles away. But you know what I mean. They've done it kind of away from home as well. So such a shame to see that. But hopefully they'll pick the right person to come in and take them on again.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out for Adam and Jake Besson and see where they turn up next as well. Because they've done pretty well wherever they've been so far. They were at Stain Slammers and I think it was Bedfont and Feltham before that. So they've done very well, as you've said, Tom. So shame for Virginia Water, but the club's in a good position. So hopefully they can continue to push for the playoffs as the season goes on. Now, one club that we're slightly worried won't be pushing for the playoffs is Maidenhead United. I mean, they're currently in the middle of a run where they've gone over 9.5 hours, only scoring 1 goal. Is it a bit too early to be getting worried about them? Because there's a lot of nil-nils and a lot of sort of narrow defeats coming their way. The only 1 goal they scored, mind you, was at the back end of a 4-1 defeat away at Bromley. What do we think of Maidenhead this season, Tom?
Initially, I'd have said no, except they managed to lose to Southend United last night, a team with allegedly only 11 fit players. That doesn't bode well. I suppose that the one slight caveat to that is that Southend, I think, without their 10-point deduction at the start of the season, actually have had a pretty good start themselves. They've had a better start than Maidenhead, so their position is a little false. Without that 10-point deduction, they would be in the top half of the table. So perhaps it's not. I think just the thing that will sting Maidenhead fans is the fact that all the talk before the game was them only having 11 fit players. So I think it's too early to be worried, but they've got to turn it around. And where better than a place they never get anything from than a trip to Gateshead in the northeast? That I don't know. It's really hard to judge. We've said time and again that the National League is an incredibly tough division. Nobody's been left behind. The bottom side has a marginally AFC Fylde have won 1, drawn 2, and lost 7. Maidenhead in 20th have won 2, drawn 4, lost 4. So they're only 5 points ahead. So no one is miles away. And equally, a win for Maidenhead, on Saturday could put them in the top half of the table. So, yeah, it's too early. But at the same time, I think I would be worried if they were shipping goals, which they are not. It's obviously a concern they're not scoring, but the fact that they're conceding particularly badly, they went on a run of 3 nil-nils in a row. They lost 4-1 to Bromley, 1-0 to Boreham Wood, and 2-0 to Southend United. That's not defensive calamity. but
No.
they need to score some goals, and they've got to find some goals from somewhere. I'm not quite sure. They had a couple of different goal scorers at the start, but they need goals, don't they? It's as simple as that, and they seem to have lost that for the time being. I don't think they've quite replaced Aqua and a couple of the other guys who were scoring for them last season, but they need to step up now.
That's it. Yeah, I think goal scorers are so hard to find at any level, So a good one's like gold dust. But I think I don't know if they need to dip further into the transfer market. They made a couple of signings close to the end of the transfer window closing, but I don't know if they need to sort of start looking around already for someone else to bring in. But yeah, goals are certainly the issue, because I think despite, like you say, they have taken a couple of defeats in their last few games, they're reasonably well stocked in the defensive positions. I mean, that's why they were able to let Temi Awika go to Slough. And I think, it said he was a little bit unlucky there, because centre back's probably Maidenhead's best position at the moment with 3 or 4 good options. So it's adding that finishing touches. And when you're a team like Maidenhead, who is semi-professional side in a largely professional league, finding that person who can help you out is so hard. So
I mean, I presume they are scouring the loan markets in Leagues 1 and 2 for someone who could drop down to their, a youngster who could drop down to their level and pull something out of the bag for them. I think that is that is what they'll be looking at. Failing that as well, you're looking at the National League South, looking at the Southern Premier, and just seeing if there's anyone they think could perhaps take a step up. I don't know who that person is, obviously, but just that's what I suspect. That's what I'd imagine they're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll obviously keep an eye on Maidenhead as the season progresses, but hopefully they can turn this run around and start banging in a few goals. Because like you say, Gateshead, pretty tough place to go and do that. They're flying this season already. So good luck to them at the weekend and anyone travelling up there. But something else you want to highlight, Tom, would be the international scene in Berkshire at the moment. It's not something we necessarily highlight very regularly.
No.
Domestic podcasts and focusing on sort of the non-league element of the football of the county. But there are some internationals, and you want to draw your attention to them.
There's two I really want to draw attention to. And the main one I want to draw attention to is Ascot United's Clodagh Farrell. And you'll have to, sorry, just bear with me a second. This is the trouble with doing this podcast whilst also trying to find a job, in that someone just asking me some questions about a job that I was interested in. And it's completely caught me off guard there, because I was quite interested in that job. Anyway, sorry. Yes, so apologies to Clodagh for just completely ruining her moment there. But we've got Ascot United's Clodagh Farrell and Walkley United's Dawn Perry-Lewis, who are with the England Deaf squad, and they are off to the World Championships in Malaysia. I think they've already left. In fact, they're already there. They raised £50,000 with the helps of the likes of Stephen Gerrard, Gary Neville, and Gary Lineker, and they are in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, in fact, for the World Cup. If you wanted to follow that on Twitter, it's at GB_Deaf Football, but they're out there now. I think Clodagh's one of the newest members of that team. She was up for a Berkshire Football Award at the end of last season, I think, in Young Player of the Season. She's certainly a talent, and she's out there now representing her country. I can only imagine how that. How much fun, how impressive, how proud she must feel. So it's a really great thing, and I'm glad that kind of thing can happen. So Berkshire Internationals is something that it's kind of a loose thing. It's usually Berkshire Internationals. Every international break, we go and get to talk about sort of the Caribbean and lovely places that actually we'd quite like to be. But so it's really nice to be able to talk about someone doing it for for a home nation, England, Wales, Scotland. I don't mind. I'm not precious about that, but it's just really nice to be able to to do. So, good luck to Clodagh, good luck to Dawn, and good luck to the England Deaf team.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll be
Talk about, whilst we were talking about the Caribbean, was the former Ascot United fullback Cameron Gray, who was part of their FA Vase winning side last season. He was named in the CONCACAF League C Team of the Round. He was. I think this gets really complicated. It's like our own Nations League, but he was playing for the Cayman Islands, and I think they were League C Group B. Anyway, but he played in the game against US Virgin Islands. He got the equaliser in a 2-2 draw, which was enough to get him in the team of the round. It was interesting because I assumed if he was in the team of the round, he would have played both games, but he was an unused substitute in the second game against Aruba. So they've got Cayman Islands have now got the return legs of both of those games coming up before the end of the year. I think they need at least 3 points to stand a chance of promotion from one of those games. So neither US Virgin Islands or Aruba have played each other yet. I have spent quite a lot of time trying to understand this competition, so I do apologise if it makes no sense whatsoever. Once you get into the nitty gritty of it, it's fairly straightforward. But they've also got the qualifiers for the World Cup mixed into there. No, World Cup, yes, World Cup qualifiers mixed in there as well, which makes it even more confusing. And the fact that there is a US Virgin Islands and a British Virgin Islands, just I much information on, Rob.
Well, it's the takeaway is that we've got some great talent in Berkshire football going across the world, representing their nations, and you'll hear more of that as the weeks go on. And it's great to see, and I completely echo your sentiments. And good luck to everyone who's representing their nations. So fantastic stuff there. Before we look ahead to the weekend's fixtures, we're just going to have a very quick look at the Combined Counties Div 1, because we sort of alluded to it over the last couple of weeks and what a good division it is for Berkshire clubs this year. We've had a very competitive round of fixtures in terms of the teams who are sort of teams at the top of the table playing each other, and it went pretty well for the Berkshire clubs. Eversley in California drew away at Wolsey. That was second against third at the time of kickoff, and still is, in fact. So they got a point away from home there. Berks County managed to win away at Rising Ballers Kensington, and Langley also came from behind to beat Westside in their in another clash between two teams who are right up there in playoff contention. And currently, we have Eversley in California in third, Berks County in fourth, and Langley in fifth. And not too far away from the playoffs. In fact, 3 points away is Yateley United, who've taken very well to life at step 6. And Windsor and Woodley United are, comfortably in mid-table, perhaps could put a run together as well. Out of the Berkshire sides there, Tom, who do you think is maybe best equipped to mount a promotion challenge this season?
But perhaps I can't answer that question specifically, but I could say that I'm surprised, and I don't mean this negatively necessarily, but just obviously Eversley in California have been through some change over the summer. Their long-serving manager Matty Angel went off to join Windsor and Eton, and it looks like they've had a bit of player change. But the fact that they're up there in third, 6 wins from 8 games, only 1 defeat. They look pretty well equipped to me. Yeah. So that's and I think Langley are probably the other side in there that are going to be very well equipped for it. But of course, our old mates at Berks County as well. I think they are probably the ones. Right now, you probably want the games played rather than it being on paper. It's probably a bit too early in the season for sort of games in hand and stuff. But Berks County have at least 2 games in hand on most of the teams in the division, so they're only 4th. I think it would be much nicer for them if they'd got those games on the board and got those points on the board. They'd be a little bit higher up the table. They've got if you just look at it, they've got a similar record to Amersham Town, who are currently top. But Berks County have played 4 less games than Amersham Town. So I think it's a time of the season where you want to have games played. I'm not quite sure why they've had games off, but I presume there's I know there was a racing at Ascot and a couple of things like that. So, but I know they would prefer to have games played at this time of the season. It's later on in the season when you're kind of looking at, could we escape relegation? Could we hit the playoffs? That's when you want games in hand, not right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if I'm necessarily equipped to say who's the best equipped, but certainly. I also just Windsor going along quietly there and ratcheting up 4 wins. I'd not even noticed that. So, good for them. It must be incredibly difficult playing. I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure how far Beaconsfield is from Windsor, having not really done that journey directly, but it feels like a bit of a leap and a bit of a distance between those two. So, great for them that they've got some wins on the board. I did fear for them, I must admit. But instead it's Bagshot and Holmer Green down the bottom.
Yeah, indeed. I think Berks County, have, like you say, they've got a similar record to Amersham, who are the runaway leaders, but have played 4 more games than Berks County. But Amersham are on 27 points after 11 games, and Berks County on 18 after 7. So plenty of games in hand. But Berks County, one of the few clubs to have beaten Amersham already this season. In fact, the teams that Berks County lost their opening game. They've won 6 on the bounce in the league since then. So, and they've beaten Eversley in California, and as I mentioned, Rising Ballers Kensington at the weekend. So they've already had some good results against teams who are right up there already. So, I think they're looking good. Like you say, you always want points on the board as opposed to games in hand. But yeah, they're looking good at the moment. I think they'd be my pick as for the ones that are best equipped, perhaps, to mount a promotion challenge. But there's plenty of Berkshire sides there, and so, like I say, it'd be a good league to follow going into the winter months up ahead. Right, I think that covers everything that we've had for this week so far. We start looking ahead to the weekend's fixtures, because we do have more FA competition action. There seems like there's an FA competition every week at the moment involving our clubs. And we have 2, in fact, at the weekend. Ascot's second ever game in the FA Trophy. They're at home to Lancing. Let's start with that one, Tom. How do you see that draw? It's a fairly kind one, considering who Ascot could have got, I suppose.
Yes, the FA Trophy is obviously, it's hard to. You don't go into a dressing room and go, well, we're not going to win the FA Trophy this season, having come off the back of winning the FA Vase last season. But the chances of Ascot winning the trophy are fairly slim. I think that's very fair to say. So as far as they can get in it is all the more positive. I don't know anything about Lancing whatsoever. You may be able to fill me in a little bit on that one, Rob, a little bit more. If they're a step 4 side already, then Ascot have got every chance of taking them on and moving on to the next round. Yeah,
they're a step 4 side who play in the Isthmian South East Division. They're currently 16th in that league. 20 teams, they're 16th. But they've only played 3 games, so 3 points from 3 games in that division. And so, but I mean, Ascot at home against a side who same level, when Ascot having started life at step 4 reasonably well, I'd be fairly hopeful about that one. I don't want to say confident and jinx them, but I'd be very hopeful at least in that one. And so I'd say that's a fairly kind draw for Ascot in that competition. But go on.
No, I was just going to say that sound. If that's the case, then I have I will go out on a limb and say I have every confidence that Ascot will get through that one.
There you go. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll be dealing with the Ascot fans when they're knocked out on Saturday, but hopefully not. Hopefully we will see them. But we also have FA Vase action, and in a bit of a turn of an unlucky turn, I guess, for Berkshire sides. There's 8 fixtures, and only one of them, one of our teams is at home, and that's Everton in California, who are actually in Hampshire. So
that's definitely a conspiracy, Rob. It's definitely I know people will say, what about the flat Earth? What about this? What about that? All those are nonsense when it comes to the conspiracy that is the FA to never give any Berkshire side a home fixture in an FA competition.
Yeah,
except for Ascot, obviously, who do have a home fixture in the FA trophy. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that is
absolutely.
definitely a conspiracy.
Yeah, well, out of our away teams, or any of the teams playing in the FA Vase this weekend, which fixture do you like there, Tom? Who do you think? Who do you think's got a good chance of going through?
I mean, you'd have to back Reading City at Cinderford Town, I think. I remember a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Woking and Embrook v Cinderford Town in the FA Cup, that just because, and I think just going on sort of a little bit of a step bias, having seen Cinderford Town play at higher levels, I kind of assumed that Cinderford would win, but obviously Woking and Embrook beat them. I think that Reading City will go to Cinderford Town and win. I think just I've just noticed on the fixture list, it looks like Burnham are playing the entirety of Northwest London. I need to investigate that and see what's going on there. Is that a Northwest London in a team?
That's quite
they
a
are.
catchment
area. Oh, right, okay. It's quite a catchment area. A bit unfair, I would suggest that Burnham, like little old Burnham, have got the entirety of Northwest London. I presume this is all the Spurs and Arsenal players teaming up to go and get Burnham. What have Burnham ever done to them? Anyway, sorry. I think the one that probably looks the most interesting, I think, is actually Wantage Town v Woking and Embrook. Wantage A, because it's quite a nice little village. Or no, it's a town. It is a town, but it's quite a nice little place to go, and the ground is really quite pleasant. But actually, that's quite it's not a million miles away. That's quite a nice, relatively local fixture if you wanted a fast one. I think Wantage Town v Woking and Embrook is probably the one I would have the most interest in over the weekend.
Very good. Okay, they've for all the fixtures in the competition, you can get onto our website, of course, www.footballinberkshire.co.uk. I'd probably back Burnham at Northwest London if it came to it. That's me. I think they're going to take on the lot and beat them. I think they are currently. I think they're a step 5 side who are currently in the relegation zone of the Eastern Counties League Division 1, perhaps. So yes, Burnham going well in the Combined Counties Premier Division North. So I think they'd be my pick to go through this weekend. But go on.
I was just going to say there is one glaringly massive fixture in this list as well, and I would say that is Binfield against Hanworth Villa. Both sides have not started well, and both sides need a win. I think that they've got a point each after 4 games in the Hanworth have played 3, Binfield have played 3. Binfield have just had essentially 2 weeks off to pull things together. I think that is kind of the standout game if you're looking for stories and for narrative in that one. I always quite like anybody playing Salisbury, and Bracknell Town are at Salisbury. I remember a few years ago, Salisbury were a little higher up, and Bracknell went there and won. It always, I don't know, Salisbury feels like one of those kind of classic, kind of famous non-league sides, and it helped. I think at the time that they were, it was the Steve Claridge was the manager. He doesn't appear anymore, but that added an extra a little bit of oomph to it. So it's a Bracknell Town or at Salisbury, but I think that the one that has the most interest there is the Binfield game.
Very good. Well, I was going to ask you to pick your fixtures. You've done that with aplomb.
Oh, sorry.
Already.
Apologies.
No, that's all good. If I was to pick one, the one I most like the look of isn't actually in Berkshire. So it's we've mentioned the Combined Counties League Division 1. Molesey against Berks County, second against fourth there. That is, a pretty high up the table fixture. And can Berks County continue this strong run that they've had since the opening day of the season? 6 wins on the bounce, as we said. So a good one there. But if you're looking for one in the county, then I think Holyport started reasonably well this season. They're comfortably in mid-table at the moment, having won 3 of their opening 9 fixtures, but they've got a tough assignment at the weekend as they play Milton United, and Milton are currently 3rd in the table. So a tough task for Holyport, but they're going along nicely at the start of the season. Sorry, 3 out of their first 7 games, not 9. I'm not giving them enough credit. So they have started very well, and hopefully they can be a bit more of a sort of mid-table club this season, I think, rather than one that's looking over their shoulder towards the bottom end of the table. So I think that would be a pretty decent aim for Holyport this season. Very good indeed. Okay, well, let's check out the Sunday fixtures as well, Tom. So if you want to pick out one of the games on Sunday, when the women's, we haven't spoken about much this week, Abbey being away, but there's a good few fixtures on the list, and plenty that are actually in Berkshire this time, as opposed to no FA Cup or no FA competitions, meaning no conspiracies against the Berkshire sides. So who would you pick out as your game to go to see this weekend?
It's really interesting because they've obviously been there's been goals all over the place. Going through the list last week, you had Finch Hampstead scoring 10, S4K scoring 10, Slough scoring 9. You'd certainly argue it's probably not great for competition in the divisions that teams are scoring those numbers of goals, but certainly Woking and Embrook drew 5-5, which is that's mental. 5-5. How do you even keep up with that? But yeah, so sorry, you asked me to pick a fixture. I think that I have been paying a bit of attention to Wallingford and Crowmarsh ladies, sort of towards the end of last season, and they are away to S4K, who scored 10 goals and got a headline on the site this week. I think that's probably the one that I would. It helps that I know a few of the S4K ladies players. But that's probably one I would definitely pick out. I believe that's at Bracknell Sports Centre. Okay. But of course, otherwise you've got Ascot and Woodley in the Southern Region League, Southern Region Premier Division. Both of those games, it's likely to be. I think certainly the Ascot game is at the racecourse, so that's always good when these games are played in proper ground. I was going off on a tangent. I was just reminiscing when I was at Holyport the other week that when I was managing the Binfield ladies team, the best ground we would go to was Holyport, and they were one of the few clubs that would play the women's games within the kind of the main pitch of the club, and it was always brilliant going there. You'd always bang your head on the dugout, but just kind of reminiscing a little bit about that. And Ascot obviously play their games at the racecourse; they've got the pitch for it, and that's always great. Always any of these games that are played at kind of the club's main pitch, I think will always get my vote.
Yeah, absolutely. Ascot winning 4-3 last weekend, so close, but a bit of competition there, but a lot of goals as well. Beating Oxford City, they're 2 from 2 in their first 2 games of the season, so they might be my pick. I think playing at home to mid-table Bagshot League, and as you mentioned, Woodley United at home as well. They're also undefeated. They're playing Eastleigh in the Community, which who are currently 3rd in the league. So slightly trickier task for Woodley, perhaps, but. Both Berkshire sides in that division undefeated at the moment, and long may that continue. Brilliant. Yes. Tom, do you want to do all the tell people where they can get all our content and everything like that, and before we check out of here for another episode?
Yes, I can do that. You can find Football in Berkshire, footballinberkshire.co.uk. You can also come and find us across Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. Although we don't post very much on Threads, mostly because I'm still stuck on Twitter. But if old Muskie, I think that's going to go down the drain when he starts asking everyone to pay for it. So just kind of getting ready with that one. And you can sign up to our newsletter, which this week will have a piece by Neil Maskell of Maidenhead United. I have no idea what he's going to write, but we are starting to talk about, and we are going to start producing specific pieces for the newsletter. So you should go and get signed up at that. There is a little box at the bottom of every article on our website if you want to pop your email address in and sign up for the newsletter. You can also ask us questions at podcast@footballinberkshire.co.uk, and we encourage you to do so.
Very good indeed. All right, well, that's it for us this week. We are getting out of here, and we'll have another episode with you next week. But until then, it's thank you very much for listening. And I've been your host, Rob Davies, been joined, as always, by Tom Canning. And
hey, see ya.
It's goodbye from the both of us. Goodbye.
Bye.